made a point to tell us, don't wrestle it, don't wrestle. But we didn't listen. We wrestled out in the backyard.
All of us did. All of us did.
Yeah. So, boy, I really hate to admit that because I know there's some, wrestling fans that might see a kids, hey, weren't you telling us not to wrestle? So, but
no. I grew up in a cul-de-sac with friends, and I had my cousins come over, and it'd always be a thing. There was a trampoline; it got even worse.
The trampolines were introduced. Yeah.
Then that became a ring somehow. I don't know. And we are back for another casual conversation with the classic. I am here with none other than the legendary man beast himself, former ECW champion, NWA champion, Rhino. How are we doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. It's sunny. I can't complain when it's
I
sunny
know.
outside. Yeah. I live in Vancouver, so we get a lot of rain. The sun started finally coming out. Yeah, we got lots to talk about, but first things first, being the Wrestling Classic, it's a cliche question, but I'm actually really curious with you because you're a little bit of an OG. What were some of your earliest wrestling memories?
Oh, geez, that's actually a good question. My earliest wrestling memory, just watching Macho Man. I remember when he beat Tito Santana, the foreign object, and I was blown away. I'm like, what is this? And just, I'm like, wow, like it blew my mind. And then he won the title, and I'm like, this is just not good. How could they let this stand? And yeah, it was, and then obviously Hulk Hogan and WWF became mainstream and all that stuff. So it was one of those things where, I was starting to watch at the right time.
That's awesome. No, that's crazy. I just got to talk to Tito Santana a couple of weeks ago at WrestleMania weekend, and
we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that moment, so it's kind of cool to hear that. That's a moment that you remember fondly in the Boston Garden there, where Savage cheated to win the Intercontinental title. Speaking about championships, you're going to be part of the Northern Rising MLP Championship Gauntlet, 20-man championship gauntlet. Why is it important, or do you feel like it's special for you to be part of MLP, considering all its history? And are you excited for this gauntlet on May 10th?
Well, I think it's very important to not only my career, but to everybody involved, because I started in Canada. I started training. I have family in Canada. And the history, guys that I've wrestled with, from Edge, Christian, Joe Legend, Christian Cage, Joe Legend, the guys from Toronto, El Fuego, everybody, and Scott trained me. Scott Demore trained me. Irish Mickey Doyle and Denny Cass were my trainers too, but Can't Have Pro Wrestling School in Windsor, it's still there, produces a lot of great talent. And guys and girls that started wrestling, but they go there to polish up and stuff like that. So it's produced a lot of great wrestling talent. So it's just fitting. So Canada's a big, just from having family, and I've been going over there ever since I was months old. And so it's, and living so close to the border, it's so much wrestling history in Canada and in Ontario. So
do you remember like the first like local show, or maybe even like a major show that you saw in Ontario?
Not in Ontario, but I remember when I went to my first independent wrestling show. It was August of '94, and I went there to get a business card. And Briar Wellington, he wrestles as Briar Wellington. He told me, he was only like 14 at the time, but he told me all about the independent scene, and he was really putting over Sabu and all that stuff, and go up there and get a business card. And I got a card, and actually Scott Demore and Otis Apollo were in the ring as a tag team. And when I walked in, so I got their first couple matches that already started. So
it was crazy.
That was my first experience to an independent wrestling show.
It's crazy to see it, and it's cool that Scott D'Amore is bringing back Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. You guys have a connection that goes way back then. Do you see the change in independent wrestling, obviously, from then to now? Like, what are some of the biggest changes you see?
You know, I seen a lot right after WWF or WWE in 2019. A lot of people were streaming. I mean, there's so many different platforms on Facebook and well, social media, YouTube, and then when the pandemic happened, it just really stopped a lot of momentum for independent wrestling. And I'm feeling like it's coming back within the last year. I could start to feel that momentum, and I think the next year you'll even see it more. I think it'll be right back to where it was right before the pandemic, as far as the popularity of independent wrestling. So.
No, for sure. And you see it happen where there's like a bump and then it kind of goes down again. And then there's a bump of new stars that come up. And I feel like that is definitely going to happen. Do you have any, just like, since you talked about them and you brought them up already, I was going to ask you a little bit later, but do you have any fun stories from the early days of training with Edge and Christian when you guys were younger? Like maybe one fun story you remember from those early days when you guys were just breaking into wrestling and realizing?
Actually, Christian was the one that put me over because I wrestled them down here in Detroit. They came down to Detroit, and they needed someone in Winnipeg. And he goes, "What about Rhino?" And oh yeah, he seems cool in the locker room. He goes, he's good in the ring, and for that time, we were in the so it was a fit, and we just all got along. But really fun and funny guys, and great at their craft. And I'll never forget, it was Edge and Christian when I went to WWE, because a lot of the producers then were, because they never watched me in ECW, and I understand that, but they're trying to tell me to work this way and work that way. And then I think Christian's exact words was, F them. Adam was a little more business, he spoke a little bit more, appropriately as far as business goes. He explained a little bit better, but it was kind of funny because more or less they said, do what got you to the dance. And then when the fans react to you, they're gonna realize that they don't need to give that input. So a lot of producers and agents, they feel like you have to give an input. But see, that also stays with me through my career, because whenever I produce or agent a match, if I don't know the person, I'll find out if they're good or not. And then if I haven't seen them, and then I'll ask them, okay, do I need to hold their hand through this part, or give them advice here, or just let them do what they do, and then just tell them the do's and don'ts. So it's really helped me out, as far as that. Sometimes you can over micromanage, and anybody that, shows up to work and, they don't want to be micromanaged, especially if they know what to do, so, and how to do it. So if you're first starting out in that field, of course, you're going to need a little more help. But if you already know, if you've been at this craft for a while, you kind of know what, you can do, what you can't do, what will get over for you and what won't, and then try to help them get to the next level. So, anyways, but getting back to your original question, but, it's just with a lot of the Canadian guys are just a lot of fun, just, fun in a good way, laughing and joking, and, all it is a wrestling business. You're just so young and hungry. It's, talking about the wrestling business 24/7,
Do you ever do any of those, what they call like those death tours during the cold areas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to die one. So the van was sinking, and, the story's been told quite a bit. So, Christian fell through. I walked him up to the van that was on land, and I'm telling him to get away from the van, because from the land you could see it sinking.
Yeah.
And the van that was stuck on the ice, there was two vans, and Adam came down and grabbed me and walked me back down. So literally arm in arm. Yeah. I'm like,
That is
man, they're
insane.
gonna, because if you would have fallen in,
Yeah.
the ones that got out of the water, you would have died pretty quick because of hypothermia and all that. And then there was only enough room in that minivan. There wasn't, all the clothes were in that van that was on the ice, so in the ring and all that. So you wouldn't have been able to change in clothes, and there would have been, I think there were 19 guys, so maybe a couple of them would have survived. So
that's insane. So the
it is.
the name for the tour is appropriate. It was a dangerous tour to get.
Oh yeah, very,
cold.
very.
Yeah.
The ice is cracking all the way across, and those ice roads and winter roads, and yeah, you can only go so fast. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was definitely an experience. So
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when you look back at it, right? When you start looking back at things, you're like, "Oh, that's
No,
a
even
crazy
then.
story." Yeah, yeah.
Well, even then, you're early 20s.
Yeah.
You're putting a couple bucks in your pocket, literally a couple bucks in your pocket, eating out of tuna fish cans. You're working at night and trying to better yourself. So, yeah.
When was the first point where you felt like, "Oh, I've made it. Like I've accomplished what I like. I'm a professional wrestler. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing full time."
You mean I'm supposed to feel like I made it?
Yeah. What point did you feel that way?
Wait a second, I didn't know that. I guess I haven't felt that yet. So
no.
I think when I went back to WWE in 2016 and I tagged with Heath, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to really enjoy this. Because sometimes work hard, but help out other guys. Okay, this is, give them a little pointers, because people gave me pointers throughout my career too. And, sometimes we forget I don't care what level you are on, whether you're in the main event of Wrestlemania, you've been doing it for a while, or you're someone new into the wrestling business and you just take off. I always tell people, when you walk into a building, whether you're up first or you're up last, or you're just signed with a company, and whether it's AEW, whether it's WWE, whether it's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, whether it's just a really good independent show, go in there and just look around and take a second and digest it and enjoy it. You're there to work your tail off, but just take a second and enjoy it. Like this weekend, I've got my own show. We're doing a wrestling convention, Insane Wrestling Revolution. That's my promotion, but it's called Insane Wrestle Fest. And we've been working our butts off for about a year, and it's one of those things where I'm going to take my own advice, look around this big convention center, and just take it in for a second. So, but I recommend everybody,
Tell me a little bit more about your own promotion. Why'd you start it, and what makes it stand out compared to other promotions?
Well, you know what? I learned from Scott D'Amore. I seen what he did with BCW, and I'm like, this is really cool to have such a local promotion with such a fan base and a committed fan base, and how like he would put a team together, whether it was promoting, whether it was booking, whether it was, you got to put a good team together. And the first show I did, because I worked a lot of independent shows after WWE the first time in 2005, and then I was with TNA, and then I didn't do any for like 4 years, and then I started doing indies again in 2011 to 2016. But even when I was with NXT, I was still able to do independent shows, but I wasn't signed with under a contract at NXT. So in 2010, I decided to run my first show. It was a charity show for my church I belong to, and St. Sebastian's in Dearborn Heights. And I was baptized there, confirmation, everything. But I said, you know what, I want to do a wrestling show. All the guys came together, and Yeah, it was really cool though. Like everybody worked for free and had to pay some money for the ring, and it was a blast. I think we did over 300 people. Oh no, that one was maybe two, and we raised about 2,000 for we only charged $5 for the tickets, and they kept concessions, and it was a lot of fun. Guys came together, and it was a Thursday, and Scott's I think I was asking Scott when I should start the show. I'll never forget this. So I decided at 7:30, and he said, and then he finally got back to me, and he said, I'd start at 7, or maybe it was vice versa. I think, I think I start at 7, and then he goes 7:30. I'm like, oh crap, the flyers are already printed. So, but my next charity show I did 7:30 because he explained to me how people get home, and and I did a few, and then for a couple of years I didn't do any, and then in 2014 I did a couple more, and then I did a couple on my own, and then when I went back to WWE I didn't do any, and it was only like 1 or 2 a year, and then in Monroe, Michigan, I moved down there. My buddy, he does Monroe Comic-Con, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of wrestling fans. So in 2019 December, that was our first show, and it's just been, well, besides the pandemic, when we came back from the pandemic, we did a couple outside, and it's just been every 6 weeks, and we built up such a great audience and fan base. I mean, we've had people from Nick Nemeth, his brother Ryan, Billy Gunn twice. Oh, the people here love Billy Gunn. My best straw ever. Seriously. It's so awesome. He's actually got a day here in Monroe. Monroe. It's December 28th. They gave him his own Billy Gunn day. Yeah, it's awesome. They love him here. I told him that. Well, the first match, because I'm here a little over a year. Everywhere I go, hey Rhino, blah blah blah. So I talked to my buddy, and it was like a year and 2 months after I moved here, where we had the show, and then after that, everybody's like, hey Rhino, how's Billy? You talk to him? I'm like, they don't even ask how I'm doing. I called Billy up like about 3 months of listening and all this stuff. And I go, hey, Billy, I go, man, everybody, you stole my thunder. I go, they don't care about me anymore. They always ask how you're doing when you're coming back. So he came back a couple of years after that, and about a year and a half ago, and he's been my best pre-sale and my best draw. So he's awesome. Yeah. So fun to deal with, and he's just great. So, but Heath Slater, I mean, Khan, we had Eric Rowan, I mean, you name it. So many people. But if people are interested, they can look up Insane Wrestling Revolution, and we're on Triller TV. So, but we just started that, which was another step. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Billy Gunn just came and charmed the entire audience. That's insane. Let me ask you this then, because you've talked about agenting, you talked about producing, you have your own independent company, you did work a bit at NXT, so you saw stars coming in and starting up. Like, how important is it to you to kind of help the next generation and pass your wisdom and like help where you can and give people advice? Because it seems like you must be doing that a lot, especially with an independent company.
Yeah, and that's what I tell guys. When you come and do one of my shows, and I've learned this from working with ECW. This is practice, and how you practice is how you perform on game day. But I also tell guys, it's not WrestleMania, so go out there, be safe, and I try to teach them how to work, too. So, and make mistakes, because you're gonna, and I think the fans are very forgiving now and very understanding now. I think they're very understanding and more forgiving than they've always seemed to be forgiving, and I'm a fan at heart, that's why I'm really doing it, and my buddy and I, because when I got with my buddy and said, hey, listen, you want to run this wrestling promotion, and, we're a legit company and all that stuff. And, some days you're just like, man, all this work, and, whatever little money we make, we just put it right in the bank. And, we saved up for this this big convention, wrestling convention, the Insane WrestleFest. But I go, man, some days it just doesn't feel like it's worth it, when you look at dollars and cents. And we both agree, when you see the fans leave, especially those little kids, because I'll throw out some names you might have heard, but I'll talk to 65-year-old men, 7-year-old men. They'll find out that I'm a wrestler, and they'll say, oh, when I was a kid, my dad or my uncle or it was never really your parents, because it was still a guy thing, It seemed like, more my generation, you'd get the dads bringing their daughters, and now it's bigger than ever because of the boom with the women's wrestling. But these older men are brought back to like their childhood.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see how they light up when they talk about it. And it's like their parents are alive. It's like they just came from the wrestling show yesterday, and it's still so fresh, so that's the real reason why we do all this is, because the kids that are going to be 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and will be long gone, they'll say, when I was a kid, we used to go down there and watch, and that's for independent wrestling promotions. And that's even when parents take kids to WWE shows, AEW shows, TNA shows, or Maple Leaf shows. It's one of those things where these kids will never forget it until the day they die, So
I actually I still hear about it sometimes. Even when I go to shows here, my mom would tell me about her dad taking her to go see Gene Kiniski here in Vancouver back in the day at the Agri Dome, and I'm like, okay, but you have a point. It's true. It's because they have those very fond memories of just going to a local wrestling show in their town. Yeah. Seeing a name that probably got bigger along the way, but like they saw them when they were working there at that territory or that indie. Yeah. It's cool, Yeah.
My buddy, he used to watch big time wrestling, Bobo Brazil, the Sheik, Mighty Igor, Leaping Larry, Shane, all these guys. My dad never watched wrestling, but he was in the hospital. I don't know what it was. It was, nothing major, but they kept him overnight, and he roomed with Leaping Larry, Shane. Yeah. And he'd always, we'd watch wrestling. He's like, tell us that. We're like, we don't know who he is, until you get older and get into wrestling. And then, I don't think he did watch wrestling because he never brought up any of that. So, but they were very supportive of us in watching wrestling. And, they made a point to tell us, don't wrestle it, don't wrestle. But we didn't listen. We wrestled out in the backyard.
All of us did.
Yeah. So, boy, I really hate to admit that, because I know there's some, wrestling fans that might see a kids, hey, weren't you telling us not to wrestle? So, but
no. I grew up in a cul-de-sac with friends, and I had my cousins come over, and it'd always be a thing. There was a trampoline, it got even worse.
The trampolines were introduced,
then that became a ring somehow. I don't know. But it's cool. You never know who you're gonna see. You could be going to like your promotion, see wrestlers starting out. And I agree with you. I always try to tell my friends that are like training to be wrestlers or on the indies now, like, stop taking this so seriously. This is where you get to try things out. You get to mess up. You get to figure out who you are, what you are. Because by the time you go somewhere, they either tell you what you have to be, or you get to be yourself and do what you want to do. But at least you can do it with more concern.
I think what I even tell people, like, my buddy and I will book the matches, and I've kind of helped him out because he had no experience in the wrestling business. It was more promotional, and he loves wrestling, has always been a fan. But he didn't know, he's really learned, and, and his wife is like outside the box looking in. So we'll ask her for some advice, or we're stuck on this. And she's came through a couple times in a big way too. She's like some good ideas. So, and that's another thing. You have to be open-minded. You know, you're only running every 6 weeks. So you gotta, you know, you really can't get too involved in stories and stuff, but, you know, the overall like good guy, bad guy, you know, and what they stand for and what, you know, so that you can kind of tell, but, you know, trying to put together matches and trying to book for the show. And then, you know, sometimes I'll watch, you know, and in between getting ready for my match or whatever. And then I'll think, you know, that was wrong on my end. And I'll even go tell the guys like, you did a good job here, but it was my fault because, you know, this, and this. And I go, but we can fix it, you know? So you have to, you learn too. And I say the last 5 years have been the best, in my wrestling career. Cause not only did I produce for 3 years, the last 3 years I was with, TNA, you know, wrestled, ran a promotion. So you're booking, you're running a business, you're dealing with dollars and cents, you're dealing with travel, you're dealing with this, you're dealing with that, you're producing, and you're still wrestling and all that stuff and learning, you know, so, and trying to help a lot of guys and girls out. So,
no, that's, I think it's the most rewarding at the end of the day, right? Considering everything you can accomplish for yourself, giving back always gives you a little bit of a different feeling. And it's true. You never know who you're going to see. I went to local indie shows and I remember seeing Becky Lynch and LP when they were just working the indies and figuring it out. And now they're on bigger stages doing cool things.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, yo, it's your boy, the Wrestling Classic, Justin here, and I'm here to tell you guys about one of wrestling's best-kept secrets for merchandise, officially licensed WWE and NXT merchandise, 500level.com. Check them out, 500level.com. Get officially licensed merchandise for the WWE, NXT, UFC, MLB, NBA, NHL. They got it all. If you join the Partnership Point program as a loyal customer, you will get discounts down the road. You can find merchandise for some of your favorite NXT stars that you can't find anywhere else. Javon Evans, Kalani Jordan, Carmen Petrovic, Lola Vice, Trick Williams. They got merchandise for everybody on NXT. You got OG shirts like this NWO shirt. You got big stars like the Queen Charlotte Flair. You get new designs like this new design for Lita. You get designs I helped out with like this design for Dakota Kai, which I was a part of creating when Dakota didn't have those many shirts going on. You can get, like I said, NXT superstars like Carmen Petrovic and many others. You can get OGs like the none other than the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. You can get CM Punk, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, anybody you want. Sami Zayn's 500level.com. Check them out. You can even get the bad guy, Razor Ramon. You get your OG, like I said, logo shirts, NWO, WWF, Survivor Series, Raw's War. 500level.com. Check them out. Join the partnership program. Some of the best quality shirts, premium quality, regular quality. Some of the best product you will find out there, officially licensed WWE, NXT merchandise, and OG Legend stuff. 500level.com. Check them out. Keep doing the thing. We'll see you all later. Let's talk about, let me talk about this. Let me ask you this for a question, because I always think this is super cool about you. Did it matter where you showed up, what year it was, how much time it's been since we've seen you, whether you showed up in the WWE, you showed up in TNA, whether it was in ECW, you come in and everyone just knows this guy's the man beast. He's taking some ass. What does it mean to you to know that like you had a character that was able to like resonate across different companies and platforms throughout the years?
You know what? I was just talking about this the other day. We were in the news station promoting our thing, and the Detroit, one of the news stations here in Detroit. And one of the guys that runs the station, he's a big wrestling fan. And I just went in there and said hi and stuff. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in the chair, we're shooting the shit and going back and forth. And I told him, I go, you know, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I've done so many independent wrestling shows and it's kind of like a grassroots, because people know, the wrestling fans will see the posters and they're like, wow, Rhino's out there hustling, you know, and he's not too good to do this or too good to do that. And, you know, or I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's an O at the end of my name, so it's easy to chant Rhino. Rhino. Like Y2J. I mean, that's awesome. Like, so easy to chant. You know, and a lot has to do with ECW, and I think they get that good vibe from me, because Road Dogg told me one time, he goes, if the fans can sense you're having fun out there, they can feel that vibe. So maybe it's a vibe the audience is feeling too, but everywhere I go, the fans are like overwhelmingly, and they've been like that for a long time. And it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger, and, Scott's even said, because he knows people in the office, like people would, like in WWE, like he gets an overwhelming response and he's not in any major angles. It's his response is unproportioned to the push he's getting, like overly, the overly response. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm just very blessed, and I connect with the fans in such a way that I can't explain it. I just can't. So
like they instantly know who you are, and it's like you've always been Rhino. It's like even if you would show up on TV right now, like I'd still be like, oh crap, it's Rhino, that's sick. Or like get excited about it, and just think that's such a cool thing for you, because like I don't know if it's maybe because you have like obviously you've gotten older, you've grown up, but like you still look the same. I don't know what it is, but it works. Like,
I've never tried to change, and like outfits or anything. And it's hard to, like, there's few people that can really pull it off, like, the Hardy Boys, with Jeff and his makeup, and he's been doing it for a while, or Matt, and it just like, and then Jericho's always been great at reinventing himself. Like he just has that knack, and it's one of those things where maybe I was afraid to, but I try not to, like, I hate my long hair. Like I wish I could cut it, but the wrestling fans, they don't want to see me with short hair. So, and I don't mind, it's better that I keep it, and it's better for them, and then I think also the fans know that I'm here. I'm going to work hard, and I'm not going to stay a long time. So let's have fun, and we'll move on. So
what significance does it have to you to know that you're like the last ECW champion, like from the actual promotion ECW?
You know what? It really hasn't hit me yet, believe it or not, after 25 years. I'm really good friends with Shane Douglas, and we'll just talk about life. He's a very intelligent man, and I like to surround myself with I like to surround myself in conversation with doctors, or pretty intelligent people that are in a field. And he was a teacher, and he knows a lot about history, and I love history, so we'll kick around stuff on history, and doctors, because I'm just fascinated with the human body, and research, and this and that, and medicines. And so it's one of those things where sometimes Shane and I will be together, and someone will go, "Can I get a picture with both of you?" And yeah, sure, come on in. And I'm like, he was the first ECW champion, I was the last one. Like, cool. So I try to tell people, I'm like, this is not a very common occasion, so make sure you enjoy this picture, and cherish it.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, is there a match or rivalry that you're really proud of, that you feel like maybe doesn't get enough credit, or does get enough credit but you feel like isn't spoken about enough?
Sandman in ECW, that really put me on the map. I loved working with Sabu. Sabu was so fun. I really, really liked working with Jericho when I first went in to WWE, and then in TNA. During my Hall of Fame speech, I was getting to the TNA stuff, but I was running short on time. And that led up to the, there was a match right after that was like, every minute someone would come out. I was involved in that too. And so we had to time that out great, because, we had to go live on the pay-per-view at 8:00 and Bound for Glory. So there was no going over on my speech. But one of the things I wanted to get in was working with AJ Styles, Abyss. We had some really, really good matches. I got a lot of mic time and stuff, and, so a lot of interview time. And I worked with Christian, when he came back, and I mean, so many guys, Samoa Joe, a lot of fun matches, a lot of really memorable matches too. So those angles in TNA, and then you're just working with the Usos and tagging with Heath, and such a great guy, great friend. So a hell of a worker too.
Hey yo, it's your boy the Wrestling Classic. Just with a very special announcement. I gotta let you guys know about the premier wrestling convention in Los Angeles, LAX Fan Fest. Check them out. Bret the Hitman Hart, Dustin Rhodes, Rikishi, Conan, Godfather, Mina Shirakawa, Victoria, so many great names. LAX Fan Fest, June 28, 2025, 5711 Century Boulevard at the Hilton by LAX. Come on through. It's the premier wrestling convention in Los Angeles. If you haven't been to one, you'll absolutely enjoy it. We'll be doing a giveaway for all of you big Bret Hart fans, so keep your eye out for that giveaway. Follow LAX Fan Fest on social media. Follow the Wrestling Classic. Check out fanfestlax.com. Get your tickets. Google it. Figure it out. Be there. June 28th, LAX Fan Fest. Bret Hart, Dustin Rhodes, Rikishi, X-Pac, Conan, then the list goes on. If you're an old school wrestling fan, if you're a new school wrestling fan, you're going to have a blast. LAX Fan Fest. Come through. Make sure you're there. Keep doing the thing. And we talked about, we talked about how, a lot of other people have reinvented themselves and kept themselves fresh. In a way, you were taken seriously a lot, but then you did have that run with Heath where it was a little bit more fun, and you did get to show a little bit more of the comedic side. How was that for you to kind of break the Rhino character a bit and have fun with Heath and him and all of his kids and be a part of those skits and have a little fun with it? Because I think at that point in your career, people were okay with it too. They're like, oh no, it's Rhino, but this is a cool.
You know what? People, it just worked, and it wasn't. There was no championship, tag team championship in our future when they put us together, and the people just loved it. That's one of those things where it's because of the fans. Yeah. There's just such an opposite, you have this, ECW guy, and then you got this funny guy, and what you see with Heath is what you get. He's just, he'll make you laugh, and he's just so funny, man. We were talking earlier today. I'm like, I forget. I'm like, I'll karate chop you. He's like, I'll punch you, just stupid crap, But anyways, so I go wait until, because we're wrestling the NWA Tag Team Champions at the show. I go wait until we win, and then he was Golden Gloves.
I did not know that.
He don't even make. I'm like, that's something to be proud of. Yeah, he brushes it off and stuff. Yeah, Golden Gloves. Because he got into boxing to keep himself out of trouble. Yeah. So.
I feel like maybe I interviewed him years ago. He was one of my very first interviews, and he was so cool and so easy to talk to. He might have brought it up, but I remember being so nervous, and he's such a cool dude. He's just so easy. He makes it easier on you, for someone that
he makes you feel comfortable. Yeah,
he's really good at that. And you guys were the first SmackDown champions of that new era. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
That's another accolade on your list that you probably forget about sometimes.
Yeah. There's a cool picture. We're working Headbangers. And boy, they came out and they got a great response. They were still over, and I think they came out first. And I'm like, I go, what did I say? I go, I don't think the people are going to like us, but they loved us both, both teams. And then they got Heath in the mouth. He was bleeding out of the mouth. And then when he came over to knock me, I forget which one. And just split my eye open. It was the bone right on there, and it didn't even hurt, and I'm not saying I'm tough or anything, but it's just that I've had probably 80 stitches from the chin up. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and I still look this good. Imagine if I didn't have all these stitches. I always joke, but in the head, I had 15 from Jeff Jarrett's Guitar Shop, Bound for Glory, 2005. Fonzie. Actually, I didn't get stitched up back there, but it was a chair. Everybody has that scar. From the 90s and stuff in the early 2000s. But when they do the chair shots to the back. But so, anyways, long story short, that's why in that match they went to black and white, because they still didn't want to show blood on TV. So, but there was a picture. It was a really good picture where I'm holding his hand up, and then I just got color, and then he's got color all down his mouth and on his chest. And it's just such a cool shot. And I think at that point, I kind of knew that we were onto something, you know. So
yeah, no, it was what a weird time. The Headbangers are back. You're teaming with Heath Slater, wrestling over time. Like, what a crazy time. Let me ask you, how do you feel? Because obviously, like, you were part of ECW, you had some Buddha Wars yourself. How do you feel about the evolution of like hardcore wrestling as where it's at today? Like, sometimes we see some crazy, we see cinder blocks, we see people with blades and glass and needles and all these things. Like, where do you feel about hardcore wrestling where it's at now? Like the death match wrestling.
The death match, you know, that I think it's a niche for certain wrestlers. I don't think all wrestlers should do that. If it really built up to a wrestler that's known for that, and another wrestler like Matt Cardona did a death match, and I love how he gets the king of death match, which is awesome. Because I tell him, I go, I'm not hardcore, you're hardcore, king of death match. He gets a kick out of that, and he's a great guy too. But anyways, I think, you know, there's a niche for that, and fans really like that. The needles, not so much. That's me and my personal taste.
Yeah.
But I like the hardcore, you know, like tables and chairs and stuff where, you know, you can still have your kid watch, you know, and the glass, it doesn't really bother me. I think that's okay. And like the barbed wire and stuff. And Sami Callihan just had a great match. You know, so I think those matches are okay when it's called for.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it just has to be a special, you know, special occasion. So those more extreme.
Yeah, the genre is for who enjoys the genre, and it does make sense when the occasion makes it make sense. It's just like, I think it's so interesting compared to like what you guys thought was hardcore back in the 90s and revolution in the game, especially here in North America, to where it's come. It's like it's such a crazy evolution. Talking about tables, ladders, and chairs and stuff like that. Is it crazy to you that still to this day people still talk about the WrestleMania 17 TLC match that you got to be a little part of? Like, it's still living on till this day, like 2025. It's that. It's a Hell in the Cell match with Mick Foley. Like, these things are still talked about till this day.
Yeah, and just it was so great to be part of that. And, you know, so many things. What I get asked about a lot, or it's brought to my attention, is the Gore and Chris Jericho.
Yeah, that was coming up soon. That was my next one.
Yeah. Well, I don't have too much time. My battery's going on my phone. So, but yeah, we'll try to rapid fire. I don't want to miss out on anything.
So tell me about that Gore. Like, does that still surprise you that people bring that up?
I thought that would have been forgotten the day after it aired. You know, and to this day, it looked cool. I didn't think it was going to be as cool as it was, and you know, people love it, and I get asked about that so much in Jericho too. So, but yeah, that's one of those things where, you know, and I always tell people, like when I'm producing or when I'm giving advice, I go, I might tell you 10 things. One thing might work for you, but don't think you have to try the 10 things and I'm not always right. So, and then sometimes people will do something or show me something or explain something. I might not see it, but it's like, hey, you know, and then let's try and it'll get over like, you know, like $1 million. So
did you realize that they were just going to change the stage next week anyways? Like, were you guys aware of that? Is that why you guys just?
I don't think so. I don't remember that, or they said, hey, we're getting rid of this set, so you guys can destroy it. I think that's what it was.
Okay, so you had some knowledge, because I was like, that's another part of it, is that you speared them through that OG set, and then the Fist debuted the next week, and they were like, the new set. We're like, oh, okay, cool. We'll rapid fire these ones really quickly because you're the man beast. So I had a really quick question I was curious about. Do you have any phobias? Is there anything that Rhino was scared of?
I don't like snakes or mice. Yeah.
Okay. It makes sense that a Rhino wouldn't like a snake just generally, I feel like, in nature too.
Well, I mean, if I see one, like I was actually because I bought a marina in 2018, fixed it up, and then I just bought one last year, not too far away, and I'm fixing it up. But I was throwing the dock posts in, and I had a buddy over there helping me. And anyways, there was a snake, fox snake. I'm like, oh. So it slid underneath the mat, and we pulled it back. I took a picture. I wanted to make sure it was a fox snake. And you know, so because we have Michigan rattlers here, and you know, we don't they're poisonous.
Yeah.
Want to make sure we're not dealing with that. So
yeah, you want to be careful. What's on your playlist? What does Rhino listen to? What's your music?
Shania Twain. No.
Yeah.
Actually, she's Canadian, right?
No, she is, and she's a legend. So I'm
Yeah.
with it. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I like a lot of classic stuff. I like grunge. I haven't really given the new stuff a shot because you know I don't have any kids that well, my daughter, she's 22. She lives in Germany. So it's not like I'm listening to it, but I'm sure I'd like a lot of it. I just, I like Snoop Dogg, like that's like, the 90s and stuff, rap and grunge and yeah. So
No, for sure. Let me ask you this, and if you were to say you want wrestling fans to remember you for anything, how do you want them to remember Rhino?
Oh geez, I don't know. Worked hard and I just really love the wrestling business. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Really love the wrestling business and I'm a big fan and I love doing like I still call it the gimmick table, merchandise and all that. I just love interacting with the fans. Because we have that deep connection and that's wrestling and the wrestling business. And I think, when we pulled back the curtain a little bit or a lot on wrestling, I think it helped wrestling more than it would have ever hurt. Because a lot of people were, you're going to hurt it. But now the wrestling fans and people in general see what people go through, in this wrestling business. And we all go through a lot of difficulties in life, whether it's home, work, this or that. And different jobs will take you away from your family. But it's like we're doing this, for a few different reasons. One, if we can make a living at it, great. But we do a lot of it because we love it. And we do a lot of it, for the fans too. So I think that they, and we compete in different ways, who's getting over with the fans better. How can, competing for bookings, competing for this, competing for better physique, competing for better outfits, competing for a better entrance, and all these things, So competing to be a better business person and, all these things. So I just, what I'd like to be remembered is extreme wrestling. So hardcore wrestling.
No, for sure. And I think there is a truth to that because I feel like for most people, I have this conversation where they're like, oh, why did you continue liking it so much once you kind of found out what it was? And like, when UFC happened and all that stuff, I'm like, because once you understand what it is and you appreciate that aspect of it, you enjoy it a little bit more and appreciate it differently.
Right.
I think a lot of fans appreciate it differently now because they understand it and the work behind it and everything. Last two questions, wrap it up. The Gore is considered one of the best forms of a spear to a lot of people. So I have to ask you right now, currently in today's market, who do you think has the best spear?
Braun. That was Carlito. Yeah. I think I've seen Carlito's soul leave his body.
Yeah.
And then thank God it returned,
yeah.
But see now, and I can't tell you what it is, but now that he did that, he's a great athlete, comes from great stock. And, I like to consider it Michigan stock too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Born and raised in Michigan. So it's Michigan stock and, great stock he comes from. So I think I have to come up with a super Gore to combat, that awesome spear. So
you got to get your speed up and do the run around the ring.
No, I've got to come up with something different, because his speed, I can't beat that even in my prime. So he's just such an athlete. So I think I've got to come up with a super Gore, and I got to think that. And the thing is nobody kicked out of the Gore. And I don't know if you've ever heard that, but I said it on Chris Van Fleet's podcast, and he's like, I think I've seen someone kick out of that. If they kick out, it's a spear. So
But
nobody's ever kicked out of the
Gore
door. Yeah,
never kicked out. There's something
right.
to that. And you know what
Right.
you're doing, so you know when you're hitting a spear or if you're hitting a Gore. Last
Yeah.
but not least, and we'll wrap this up. I always ask everybody this at the end, and I just take a second, let it marinate, because it's really easy to be like, yeah. But do you feel like if you would have talked to however old you were when you started training in professional wrestling, or even younger, the kid that was watching the Macho Man and Tito Santana, do you feel like you made your younger self proud?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
1,000%. I'm living a dream,
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. All right, everybody, MLP, check him out. Northern Rising, May 10th. Rhino will be part of the gauntlet. He will be part of the championship gauntlet to crown a new world champion for MLP. And also check out his independent company and check that out. Check out the convention. If you're in the Michigan area, go check it out. What date is it on, the convention?
May 2nd, 3rd. Insane Wrestling Revolution is a promotion. Insane Wrestle Fest is the convention.
Yeah, so guys, check that out. If this should be dropping early next week, so it should be before that. If you get the opportunity, go check that out. And everybody, keep doing the thing. We'll see you all next time. Thank you very much.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.